couple of years back, master district, bridge had been moved into another precinct. And before it had been moved, he had promised the people that he would widen the bridge. Once it was taken out of his precinct, he said, I can't do anything about it. It's not my precinct. Well, the first time he noticed, we put it back in his precinct, and now he's gonna have to widen the bridge. Been there for months, he just hadn't paid attention.
It's the same place I was, plus a little bit more, I'm not getting their money up there by the state.
So you're gonna be picking up the population, how much people do?
Well,
How are you, Billy?
I didn't see nothing big, and I didn't hardly see no road.
I know, but I'm just saying, I know that you already got 484,000.
I know. Mexico place, they started.
Yeah, I have to leave by
I take all that stuff from
I know. Get over to
county road.
Is that the prison?
No, I seen it on Google. Yeah.
Yes, whatever.
Unless they're on this side of it.
Super responsible.
There might be one, but there is not very much.
We're gonna leave it all. Everybody knows listening is actually in prison. And then you find, okay. Vanessa?
Exactly. All right.
Where are you?
Is you gonna move out there permanently?
Which is an RV
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if the wheels came off the deal or not.
Not been for 30-something years out there since like 85, I ain't get off of it. I give that, I give Matt and Randy there, it was getting tough to get way back here for a while.
Are you good with that? Where that would, you want that changed?
Well, show me, make sure I understand. Are you talking about just a swap of those two areas?
Yes,
So you can take this?
if I took the precinct 3 took this and this, and gave up that.
Okay.
But now, mileage wise, it don't gonna work, so somebody maybe. Gets into prison.
Well, the prison doesn't count, so.
So that won't matter if we change it. It won't affect any population.
Well, there's more, I mean, there may be some people there, but not many.
Not enough.
No, I mean, so now, just make sure. So you're saying this area is going to go right here, either over here or over here? Is that what you're
I
saying?
don't know where, no, I don't know where.
Okay.
I'm just looking at, if I take what we've got circled here and here, then that is, that's 38 miles of road. And what would be given up would only be 21 and a half,
Okay.
rough numbers.
Well, of course, there's road and there's road. Are all those miles about the same? Okay. Well, I can deal with the population. Y'all gonna have to sort out the road.
As far as the condition of the roads or?
Bridges or whatever.
Yeah, that's what we hadn't got that deep into it.
Okay, well, I'll start off by just moving those first three areas and see where that puts us.
Okay.
And I'll send that back to Beth to distribute to the court. and let you all take a look at it with the numbers. And if it balances, let me know if that suits you. If it doesn't balance, I'll tell you how much we gotta move from one place or another. And then when you're ready, I'll come back over here, or you can just send it to me and I'll work it out.
All right.
But if I understand, we're gonna take this little area here, put it on yonder, and you're gonna pick up those two areas. And we may or may not have to do something with that one. Is that correct?
Let me see the area. What area are you talking about?
Well, he's talking about moving this area over here.
From where? Out on here?
Yeah, it's part of it. So that's three, moving it from 3 over to
One.
1, and moving this and this from 1 to 3. And then at that point, I will let you know what happens. Then there's,
So
this goes to 3 and this goes to 3.
yeah, and then this goes to 1.
1, yeah. And so I'll find out what that does and let you know if there's a need to do more.
And that's all between y'all's two precincts.
Yeah,
Except for,
yeah, because you won't cooperate.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Are we talking about y'all just swapping
Yeah,
between y'all?
yeah, we're
well,
trying.
that's all, yeah, that's all we've got on there now.
All I'm doing right now is between those two precincts.
Mhm.
Is there
Yeah.
anything that you want to move?
Mhm.
Okay. Is there anything you'll take?
Mhm.
There you go. They won't move it or take it.
I think we're going to vote on that.
I'll have this back to you by the first of the week,
All right, perfect.
and then we can decide what to do next.
Has to be done by a certain time, I guess.
Well, that's an interesting question. Ordinarily, we're completely through with this process by now.
Mhm.
Got the numbers 8 months left
Got
from the census. Right now, the legislature has Senate Bill 13, is going through the special, and if it doesn't get changed, it's put 4 dates in there for when if the governor signs, I sent you a copy of that. If the governor signs the legislation on House, Senate, Congressional, and State Board of Education on this date, and I don't remember the date precisely, you're going to go ahead and have a March primary and a May runoff. If it's not by that date, but by a later date, then you're going to move the election back to February and June. And if it's not by that, but a later date, you move it back even further. And if none of those work, then the Secretary of State's going to be told, figure it out. So, to answer your question, if it stays with a March election, then you're going to have to call it in December. And it would be ideal if we could get this done in October, so that you've got time to, if this requires changing some election precincts, for example, that's another aspect that will have to be dealt with. As we move part of an election precinct from one commissioner precinct to the other. Do we know that there are no JPs or constables living in the areas we're talking about?
I don't believe there are.
I don't think we know for sure, do we?
it. No, we hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they're coterminous with y'all. And so if we've paired 2 JPs or 2 constables, then I don't have a dog in that fight. I'll do whatever you want. But we don't want to do that if we're appointed. And so I'll send that back. When you get it, check with your JPs and constables and just make sure that they haven't been
I
impacted.
didn't know for sure. We talked about it, but we just agreed we didn't know.
Okay,
We'll
well,
find out based on what we,
I'm going to send this back to you by the first of next week. And you all kind of think about who all might impact. I'll let you know if we need to do some more horse trading to get the numbers right. And also, you probably ought to be getting with your elections folks, and if you do that, what will that do to your election precincts?
Ben, you'll need to talk to, we'll need to talk to Renee about that. Now, when we do have that agreed upon,
Yeah.
we'll need to put that on the agenda
You
for us
will.
to approve that.
Yeah, and you're going to want to hold a public hearing when you do that. Just if somebody comes in with their hair on fire and says something that we should have thought of, I'd like to hear it before
Okay,
it appears in district court somewhere.
okay. But now, when you're talking about putting something on the election ballot, that's state stuff, isn't it?
Well, but
State
you-
districts?
You do the election precincts,
Uh-huh.
but when you draw, first of all, I'm assuming that Freestone County is not split by any House, Senate,
No.
Congressional, or State Board of Education. So
I don't know about State Board of Education.
Probably
Mhm.
not. So it's very unlikely the state's going to do anything to your election precincts. But say, take McLennan County, we're split. And the state comes through, and if they're balancing their population, sometimes they don't pay a lot of attention to our election precincts. And so if they come in and they draw a house line that splits an election precinct, our commissioners court has to fix that. Because you can't have an election precinct that has parts of two or more of the House, Senate, Congressional, or State Board. So it has that impact. There's ordinarily an August deadline on when you can make election precinct changes, which the county does. But for redistricting, you can do it later. So we're not going to be too late for that. So what would happen, Judge, is I'll send the numbers back on these lines, let you know if that requires more work, and if so, I'll tell you what it requires. I won't tell you how to do it, I'll let you tell me. But we'll at least know at that point, we need to do something in Fairfield, we need to do something in T. And if we do, then the folks who are affected can sit down and talk about how they want to work that out. And some of that we can do long distance, because you can just scan and send me a map, I can enter it into the program and tell you what the result is. So I think, looking at this, that at least from my standpoint, there's no reason that we couldn't get this done by the end of October. Any more thoughts or questions?
When you're doing this, I mean, some of this is gonna affect the population, the number of people in that precinct, correct?
Yeah, we've got to fix that.
Right. In my precinct, I have 40768 people.
Yeah.
I'm the second largest precinct in the county.
That's right.
So in precinct 3, I have 530 more voters than precinct 3, and I have 574 more than precinct 2.
You're talking about voter precincts?
Voters, correct. And I have 114 less than precinct 3.
Yeah.
So how are we gonna do, I mean, I can't take it, I should not have to take any more of the population, is that correct?
Well, you are,
Precinct 4.
I know, I'm just looking at, precinct 4 is 5.48% high. We're gonna need to take some people out of precinct 4. And we call it one man or one person, one vote, but truth be told, it has nothing to do with voters. And the materials I've left with you, it's warm bodies. So what we balance is warm bodies.
It has nothing to do with voters?
Not the equal protection requirement that we balance population. Let me give you an example. The reason we have to balance population is because of the case Avery versus Midland County. Back in 1969, Hank Avery was the mayor of Midland. Midland County Commissioners Court had split Midland County into 4 precincts. One precinct was the entire city of Midland, 67,000 people. The other 3 precincts were the rural areas, a total of fewer than 2,000 people all put together. When it was time to elect the court, Midland could elect a judge, and Midland could elect 1 commissioner. 67,000 people only got to vote for 2 members of the court. The other 2,000 collectively voted for the other 3. You can imagine how that's going to come out when the court's voting on what happens in the city as opposed to what's happening outside. Didn't count the voters, counted the people. Goes to the United States Supreme Court, and that for the first time the Supreme Court said the requirement that representatives be equally proportioned among the population so that everybody has close enough to the same share of each commissioner's vote. So in the city of Midland, I had 167,000 of my commissioner vote. And somebody over in precinct 3 had 1/800 of the commissioners vote. And it was that disproportion that the Supreme Court said used to only apply to Congress. Both Avery versus Midland County, it applied to all local governmental representative bodies. Doesn't apply to your JPs, doesn't apply to your constables because they're not representatives. Doesn't apply to judges. They don't represent people, they represent the state. But commissioners' courts, city councils, school boards, junior college boards, all of those have to balance the population just like we do. And yes, Commissioner Rich, you're going to have to lose some people, or I'm going to have to get everybody else collectively down below about 2% to offset your over 5%, because that's got to get down below 10. But you're going to have input into where that happens. And I know there's probably no one in your precinct that you'd like to lose, but there may be some people you'd hate less losing than others.
That's a nice way to put it.
So I know it's kind of confusing. Maybe I should have gone through the handout, but happy to do that. It won't take 5 minutes to go through it if you want me to.
Did you say you did the redistricting before?
I did.
Can you tell me, whenever that was done, why the one commissioner takes care of the road and the other commissioners get the votes on the other side of the road?
Well, because you got to draw a line somewhere, and
Is the road the line, or was it the creeks in the?
it depends on where we are.
Okay.
They're about the next to the last slide is factors to take into account. One of the factors to take into account is when we draw lines, we'd rather not use meets and bounds. We'd rather use a creek, a highway, a road, because when people get, who handles voting registration here? Anybody here?
She's not here.
Okay. Well, somebody moves into
Okay.
town.
Well, down him, yes.
Somebody moves into town and they say, I want to register to vote. Well, if that line runs down a survey line out in the middle of some section, you got to figure out, well, where's the house? If the line runs down a section line or down a road or down a creek, it's easy to tell. So finding boundaries for commissioner precincts, election precincts that you can see on the ground is one of the factors that makes it easier on the voter. Protecting incumbency, not pairing two constables, not pairing two commissioners, has nothing to do with protecting you. We protect incumbency because people elected you to represent them. You are who they chose to be their representative. We don't want to take that away from them. If they want to take it away in an election, that's fine. But if I pair two commissioners and one of them's going to have to lose, the voters who put that commissioner in office have just lost their representative. And so we see a lot of these things, it looks like we're protecting you, and we're really not. We're protecting the people who sent you here. That's how the Voting Rights Act has been designed, to protect the voters. And it works really well at the local level. It works not quite so well at the national or state level. Because those folks haven't gotten the word yet. It's not supposed to be them getting protected.
Mike, we don't change anything. Are we good for this?
No. No, no. Well, let me add a nuance.
We've got to change something.
You do. Let me add a nuance to that. If you don't do anything, and nobody says anything, and there are counties and cities all over the state who haven't done anything, and no one said anything, it's kind of like they're wanting anybody to see you run that stoplight. But if you don't do anything and someone says something, on its face, you are unconstitutional, as you said. And at that point, you would have to pay their attorney to watch me make a plan for you, and then pay me. And we had a county 20 years ago, came into Waco, looked at the lines, said, yeah, I understand that we're gonna have to change, but I don't want to go back and tell our voters we're gonna pay lawyers to come over here in this county and make a change. Said, well, that's fine. So if you get sued, you're not going to just pay us, you're going to pay the people that pointed to the problem. 5 months later, they got sued. And they said, listen, I can explain to people why representatives will get sued. I have a hard time explaining to people why we just decided to do it. Well, that wasn't a particularly responsible approach for that commissioner's court, because they had to pay the plaintiff to file that lawsuit twice what they had to pay us. So, yeah, it's presumptively unconstitutional, and under the Texas statutes, government code, local government code, if you're over 10%, you're required to. Yeah. Now, it didn't happen this time, but 2 times ago, you didn't have to redistrict because you weren't above 10%. So every now and then, somebody kind of gets a pass on the census. You didn't this year, and the real problem for a small county, and not small geographically, but a smaller population, a rural county, is it doesn't take very many people. You know, in McLennan County, those numbers wouldn't even be picked up. If those were the differentiation in McLennan County, it'd be under 1%. The city of Waco's got 160,000 people. McLennan County's got 280,000 people. And so 200 people here, 300 people there would make a difference. But here, it makes a difference.
About precinct lines that Clyde was talking about, what road is that you just brought up? Commissioner had to keep the road up, but somebody else got the vote.
On 941, Lloyd has 941.
But I like to see precinct lines in our county by highways instead of keep going down the county road like that was. Or out through a pasture where it doesn't affect anybody's road. Well, then you get the same, you get to work, the people get to work, and we have a problem with that.
Well, that's going to happen because you don't have enough state highways to divide the people appropriately. I mean, you can make a lot of changes in town to make up for it, unless you got some interlocal agreement with Tig or Fairfield where you're doing their road work, it's not going to impact you. You know, we've had people say, I want you to do this right down the center line of the road. I said, you sure that you want to do that? I said, yeah. So one commissioner's going to do the south side of the road, another commissioner's going to do the north side of the road. Sometimes we've said, what we're going to do is we're going to use this road, but we're going to pick a line 400 feet or 300 yards on the east side of it to draw the line. And that way, all the people on the road are in one commissioner's precinct. So there are things like that you can do, but once you start drawing those lines that are just meets and bounds, you can't see them on the ground, you run into the problem we were talking about a little bit earlier. And that is, what precinct do I really live in?
And we might have to pay a surveyor to do all of that.
Well, at some point you would, because anybody improving a house or selling a piece of property now doesn't have the road. It's already been surveyed to rely on.
We shouldn't have to do it. We got plenty of roads, make lines. Like Greg said, it's major highways or.
Yeah, and we'll do it on, you know, one side of the right of way or the other side of the right of way. And we've had, in fact, you've got a strange condition on the roads going out of Fairfield because one of the JPs was getting too much work and the other wasn't getting quite enough.
We need to look at that again too.
Okay, well
Surely do.
that's something that was
I'm glad you
done.
mentioned that.
That was something just done for the JP.
Can you send me, you have a map that shows that pretty clearly.
Yeah.
All right, will you send that to me?
Sure. Let me make.
That'd be great. We can make copies. You send it.
Yes, he gave me
So we can establish
But you know, her deal, the JPs were getting all, some of the JPs were getting all the traffic on 45, and she wasn't getting any tickets.
That's because of where they choose to file the tickets.
Yeah, but that's why that change was done. That was done the last time.
Yes.
Another thing that we've done, and it can be confusing, but something, if it comes to it that you can consider, is at some point along the road, flip the boundary to the other right of way, the other side of the right of way. And then you're doing one length of road, and somebody's doing, it's kind of like getting to the county line, and the responsibility for the road changes. And so sometimes courts have done that. They said, you know, nobody really wants this road. We can split it here, south portion of the road going out the south side of the county is precinct 1. North side going out is precinct 2. So there are things we can do and still have a boundary you can see.
I think some of the confusion, or some of the issues has been that when they split that road, one of them dead ends. So if you have to drive all the way around for them to maintain that, but I think they have by agreement works on it.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense for the taxpayer, not to have to wear and tear on the equipment, the gas to get it there, the time of cruise travel, that all makes sense. And like I said, even though I've drawn these lines since 1979, I didn't just go off and draw them. I had direction of the court at that time saying, this is what we'd like them to look like. But things change. All right, my homework is to find out, one, Judge, to get you the detail on that up and down the highway, up and down 45, coming through Fairfield, and to get the information on these 3 changes that we're talking about. And I'll get all of that back to you by the first of the week. And then once you've had a chance to chew on it a little bit, let me know. I'll tell you what else I think might need to be done, and then let me know if there's any part of that that I've messed up, or that you've come to a conclusion on something that would fix some of the things that may still be hanging fire. Okay.
Don't forget precinct 2 is gonna be, they're low in voters and robots.
You know,
I remember that.
Yeah, make a note of that.
I'm sort of agnostic about that. I'll kind of go whichever way, any 3 of you push me. I was mayor of Waco for a long time. I found out pretty quickly that all I had to do was make 3 of the council members happy.
There you go.
And it didn't have to be the same 3 each time.
That's great, that's great.
All right, thank you.
Well, when we get this back and look at it, we may set a special meeting so we can move.
Good, and I'll work with you on a date that works.
All right, thank
All right.
you.
Well,
Thanks
nice
for
to meet
coming.
you. Good luck.
Very
Thank you.
informative.
And I have to tell you, I've not worked with many courts where it takes 7 people to keep you in line, but I see that we've got 7 around here.
Thank you.
I'm working hard on that. Take care.
That was very interesting. Whew. All right. We'll go back to item number 1 to approve the minutes of the September 1st and September 8th meetings. All right, let's just go all the way back and say, I'll call the meeting to order. We do have proof of posting. Thank you. And do we have any members of the public who would wish to speak? Anyone? Then we'll go to the minutes. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of September 1, September 8.
I'll second your motion.
All in favor, aye? Any opposed? None, motion carried. Item number 2 is budget transfers and amendments.
got bills.
Approve the bills. That's right. Okay. Two sets. Two sets of bills.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, none, motion carried. Now, item number 4 is payroll.
When you get dock times, I mean, you get off without pay or something.
And admin is when you get paid in, don't take time off.
Make a motion to pay payroll.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, none, motion carried. Number 5 is reports. I have a report from JP3 for August. JP2 for August. Tax office for January through August. County clerk for August. District clerk for August. And senior services for August.
Sounds good.
Extension also.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All in, motion carried. Item number 6, burn ban.
I talked to Judge last night, he said he would like
No action. Item number 7, special road use agreements and contracts.
I got one. Permit, most, overweight, permit, $600, $50,000. That's latest. The bond.
That, is this one right here, is that? I got that off the internet.
Okay.
This guy called, his summary detailed what road, he said they had 2 lines across the road and they would be digging the road up. It was not a dead end road, so there was a way to back traffic around. Didn't have, no way.
That's right.
So I can call him.
Yes, we'll do it Monday. On Mondays, we will have road use agreements. All right. All right. Do we have a motion on yours? Do we have a motion on yours?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right. Motion carried. Item number 8, bonds and education certificate from JP3. Bond for the secretary at JP3. No, JP1. Sorry. Anybody else? Ron, do you have a motion to accept these? discuss. And this is just, you have last year's, and then the other one is just showing the dates for basically the ones we had the year before, except we did, the federal government did declare another holiday.
Judge, I let October 11th, I didn't put on that list, I missed it for Columbus Day, and I just added all the federal holidays that were on there, so y'all can pick and choose which ones you have variety.
Last year, we didn't take that October one either. You know, sometimes we kind of switched around some holidays just to spread them out a little bit more for benefit of the employees getting a day off at different times during the year. And to celebrate the holidays. Okay, so January the 1st, is that on a weekend?
Yes.
Okay.
So, the federal holiday, they're taking it December 31st, which is a Friday, because January
Friday.
1 is on a Saturday.
If we went back to, oh, December 31st, I see, I'm sorry. I was looking January the 1st, so we do have that Friday then on there. Now, this is a list of 12 on here. Christmas will be on a Saturday, so would it be off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday? You'd rather do it that way?
Last year we had 11, and this year we got 12. It's 2 weeks old.
Yeah, come on.
That's correct. We added that federal,
June 20th.
June the 20th, Juneteenth. You can add or subtract, this is just starting point.
I like what you got, what you have written down, or been wrote down.
Any suggestions, discussion? We have a motion then to
Make
set
a
the
motion.
holidays.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
All right.
Any opposed? None, the motion carried. Item number 11 is to designate the regular commissioners court meetings for the next fiscal year. We've had it on Wednesday a number of years, and we used to have it on Monday. I think Wednesday works so much better.
Make a motion to designate first and third Wednesdays for Commissioners Court meeting, unless there's a holiday. If there's a holiday, then we,
We usually have it on the agenda the second day. Because I know sometimes,
If we got to move one in November, because that meeting in Waco.
would you rather, I mean, you could say.
okay, that's fine, I don't,
You could say, but
we
they
used
just.
to do it, when Monday was a holiday, we'd always set it.
All right, since we're having one on Wednesdays, would you like to say for the
Just first and third
Tuesday?
Wednesdays,
Wednesday or Tuesday or Thursday?
first and third Wednesdays.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Motion carries. All right. Item number 12 is to set the sheriff's and constable's fees for 2021. Sheriffs and constables. Buck, do we have any change?
Well, next
getting ready to come prepared for that.
I have last year's in there where it shows the change.
It's the same though, isn't it?
No, ma'am. It went up.
Thank
I contacted each JP and I contacted the sheriff's office. And Jeremy's recommendation, the sheriff would like to raise everything that's 85 on that list to $100. That was his recommendation, so I put it all on there if you approve it. If not, I handed you the one from last year and the one that would be approved if you approve his recommendation.
Whatever they like.
Was 85, it went to 100. Any discussion?
Everything else stays the same. So it stays the same. Do what they want.
Or you don't want to raise it from 85 to 100?
About $15 on very few of them, the rest of them the same.
Well, most of that whole list is about 85, one 85s.
Yeah. There, the rest of it. All these over here did too, there's some there, 85, one to 100.
That was his recommendation. Anything that was marked $85 on this list, he wanted to move it up to $100.
I'm thinking some of the surrounding counties raised theirs.
If you'd like to know, he did give me where we are 85 on citations. Anderson County, Limestone County is, in Leon County are 100, Navarra is 85. On the writs, we're 150, Anderson's 175, Limestone County 150, Navarra 150, and Leon 150. So his didn't choose to do the writs to 175 like Anderson. He wanted to keep those the same.
We have a motion to leave it the same as we currently have. We don't have a second.
Did you make the motion, Craig?
Yep.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to leave the fees as they
Why,
were.
why would we not go up on it? Why would we not go up on it?
You want to, you don't have to vote for it.
Oh, no, I'm just asking, what would be the reason for not going up on it? I mean, it's what would it revenues?
$15.
Well, what would that calculate to in income for the county?
Well, on these issues, you know, it's about, what, between 10 and 15% more. But that's just on these fees, which would increase some, yes. Surely would. And, I don't think we've had an increase in quite a while, have we, Lynn?
Several years, yes, ma'am,
Several
we have
years.
not.
Mhm. I think we have a motion and a second to leave them as they are. All in favor, aye. Opposed?
Here. Opposed.
Opposed?
Think we need to go up.
Well, you just said that it's just leave it like it was.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
You want to leave it like it was, I'm looking at all these 85s on here, we're not up to 100. You said the rent was gonna change.
We have two voting for leaving them the same and one voting no, leaving them the same.
I don't see why we wouldn't change if it's gonna revenue the county more money. Not costing the taxpayers nothing, it's costing the.
People that use the services a little more.
Exactly.
Some of those are our citizens and a lot of them are not our citizens. Use our services.
Judge, do we have on the table number 2 and number 4 voted for and one opposed and one not voted?
No, we
Three
haven't
not
voted,
voted?
that one hadn't
I
voted
mean,
yet.
That's what I'm asking, yes,
But
ma'am.
he's still discussing,
Okay, thank you.
I think.
I'm gonna go with Commissioner Precinct 1 and say we should raise 85s to 100.
All right, we have 2 for leaving them the same and 2 for not leaving them the same, and I vote for not leaving them the same. So now we need a new motion. That one did not pass. So do we have a motion to increase the fees as presented?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, let's go to 13. To adopt the 2022 Freestone County Resolution Indigent Defense Grant Program. And we do this every year. We do get some funds from the state to assist with the expenses that we have spent on paying legal fees for indigent defendants. And what they give us is not any, I would say probably not 10% of what we spend, just as a guess figure, but nonetheless, in order for us to get that amount from the state, we need to do this resolution, which basically says that we have agreed that, whoop, no, that's not it. That we will follow our plan, basically. If we don't, well, then we have to pay the money back to them. But we certainly try to follow the plan.
I'll make that motion. We follow the plan.
Follow the plan and get the money. There you are. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Motion carried. Item number 14 is to discuss a nomination for an individual for Board of Directors members for the Freestone Central Appraisal District. We have this on here for us to at least give you an opportunity to talk to whoever you would like to talk to. If you want to continue with Sid, to ask him if he would, or if not, if you want to appoint someone else. So we will have this on the next agenda. We need to be prepared to appoint someone for that position. Unless you have someone right now, I think.
We might have somebody now, Judge.
Pardon?
We might have somebody.
You might. Well, the commissioners, you might?
Just move for that position on the thing. I'd like to nominate Craig Oates.
Oh, I thought you were volunteering.
No, ma'am.
Oh, I thought you.
What are you trying to put me on?
I thought you were volunteering when you said, I think
Board of
I'm out.
Directors.
No, ma'am.
Praise the board. Praise the Lord.
They have neighbors.
All right, we're already talked about putting that to next, so we'll have another discussion on that.
So I didn't get a second?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought you were volunteering is what I thought.
No.
All right, on item number 15, let's take just about a 5-minute break and we'll go into budget review.